Hi everyone, we're going to get started with today's webinar on marine megafauna. This is the first part of a three-part series. Today is all about pinnipeds and we're really excited. We get to see these wonderful creatures quite often at our headquarters in Plymouth, Massachusetts. We often see them on our field trips in the summer as well. If this is your first time joining us, we're just going to tell you a little bit about who we are. Ocean Protection Advocacy Kids, or OPAK as we call ourselves for short. We are a nonprofit that teaches K through 12 marine science, art, and advocacy workshops out of Massachusetts. We try and get our students to become artists and advocates for the ocean. And we always like to say it starts with knowing, and you have to be curious. And we hope that these webinars have been helpful for you and that we wish we could be in your classroom, but we're grateful for Zoom and YouTube and all the wonderful resources out there so that we can all stay connected. We will have a Q&A at the end of this webinar. So if you do have any questions, please hold off until the end. And if you have to leave early for some reason, please feel free to shoot us an email or a message on Facebook, and we will try and get back to you as soon as we can. So today we're going to learn about what a pinniped is, how to actually safely view marine wildlife. We're going to discover the difference between a seal and a sea lion. We're going to explore some different pinniped species that are out there from around the globe. We're going to find out how we might be able to help pinnipeds from our own couches. And then we will again have time for a Q&A at the end. And if you haven't yet, please do register for next week's webinars, which will be on whales and the big fish of the ocean. So what do we mean when we actually say marine megafauna? We are referring to the very large creatures in our ocean. So this is the seals, the whales, sharks, big fish like swordfish and tuna and marlin, turtles, manatees, giant squid, and our giant manta rays. There are a lot of really big creatures in the ocean, and we're going to learn about quite a few of them today. First off, I want to define what a marine mammal is, because our pinnipeds are marine mammals. All marine mammals share some of the same all of the same characteristics. They're all warm-blooded, just like us. They breathe air, so they can't stay underwater forever. They have hair or fur during at least some stage of their life. They all bear live young, so they don't lay eggs. And females of all marine mammals have mammary glands that will produce milk, just like humans or cows or other mammals. And not all marine megafauna are marine mammals. So as I said in the last slide, we have turtles and big fish, manta rays. They are not marine mammals. But today we will be focusing on marine mammals. We have three big groups of marine mammals. We have the carnivores, Sirenia, and Cetacea, which are our whales, which we will talk about next week. We are not going to be doing the Sirenia because I am not an expert on manatees or dugongs, but maybe in the future. Today we're going to be focusing on carnivoria, and specifically the pinnipeds, but their cousins, you could say, are polar bears and our sea otters. These are all of our creatures that think of like canine teeth, like dogs, have the ability and usually do eat meat. So our pinnipeds, this is coming from the word pinna and ped, meaning feather-footed. We also call pinnipeds fin-footed because of their flippers. They're divided into three groups from that order: carnivoria, which means, again, to have prominent teeth, like think of a dog and canine teeth. We have seals, we have sea lions, and fur seals, which are a little different than seals, which we're going to learn about in a few moments. And then we have the walrus. The name describes the prominent skin-covered flippers that pinnipeds have. And these flippers are beneficial to propel them through the water, and in some cases to cool the pinniped down. Pinnipeds all have whiskers, 4 flippers, and most are social, but that does vary to a certain degree depending on the species. And while pinnipeds are marine mammals and they spend most of their time in the water, they are semi-aquatic. So most pinnipeds will what we call haul out or come out onto land or ice for a good chunk of time. And they do this to bear young, to mate, to molt, and to sunbathe. Pinnipeds do molt or shed their skin. A lot of them do it every year. And there are currently 33 species of pinnipeds out there. And they look a lot like this. And you will notice that pinnipeds vary pretty dramatically in their size and their characteristics. So their color, their shape, their whiskers, their flipper size. We're going to talk about quite a few of these pinnipeds, but I just wanted to show you that they are very different. So when we say seal or sea lion or walrus, we need to be a little bit more specific. Now, it's good to see these animals out in the wild, and it's pretty easy to see a lot of them, but we need to be careful when we are out there. We need to be respectful of these animals and their habitats. So we just want to make sure that we're having a safe experience, that the animals are having a safe experience. We're being respectful of their habitat and maybe part of what's going on in their life cycle. If they're mating or breeding, they're going to be a little more anxious than normal. So some general viewing guidelines for you if you live near the coast and you are out there trying to enjoy some nature and you see these wonderful animals. You just want to make sure that you're not harassing them in any way. And that for seals and sea lions, both in the water and on shore, we want to remain at least 50 yards away from them, so 150 feet. And that's about half a football field. And this includes your pets. So if you're bringing your dog on a walk at the beach, you want to make sure you're keeping them on a leash if you know that there are pinnipeds around. We don't want to feed or attempt to feed any marine mammals. It's not good for them and it's illegal. And we don't want to interact with them at all. It's their home. So we're not taking any selfies with our pinnipeds. And the fact that I have to say it means that it happens. And before we spend time near the ocean, we want to make sure that we learn about the species that are in our area, because there are different guidelines and regulations for different species of marine mammals. So, but for our seals and sea lions, trying to stay at least 50 yards away from them. I have put a link on our website to how you can report injured or sick marine mammals that you find entangled or stranded on the beaches. And if you see someone breaking these rules, there is a hotline that you can call. I've also linked the regulations here, the guidelines for viewing, to our website, and these are all from NOAA. All right, so let's start learning about some individual pinnipeds. I'm going to start with the walrus because the walrus is neither seal nor sea lion. It's in its own group. They're pretty cool looking and they're really, really big. So they are between 7.5 and 11.5 feet long when they are an adult, fully grown. And they can weigh up to 1.5 tons or 3,000 pounds. And to put that into perspective for you, a Toyota Corolla doesn't even weigh 3,000 pounds. So these are very large creatures. They can live up to 40 years in the wild, and they feed on the bottom. So they dive down, they eat mollusks and sea stars and sea urchins and small bottom-dwelling fish. They are extremely sociable. So if you were in the habitat of the walrus, you could hear them loudly singing and snorting at each other on the beach, or for them, sorry, on the ice, really. However, they are pretty aggressive during their mating season, as are most marine mammals. They do have ivory tusks, which have actually endangered them over the years, and these tusks can grow up to 3 feet long. And that's a wonderful picture of our walrus here from National Geographic on the left of your screen. And you can see those tusks. They're actually canine teeth that just keep growing throughout their life. And these are used for fighting each other, really to show dominance, hauling themselves onto icebergs, and occasionally to get some food. And like I said a few moments ago, the walrus has been pretty vulnerable for these tusks and for their oil and meat. And there still are some native tribes in the Arctic regions that do hunt walrus, but there are a lot of regulations on this. And fun fact, walruses can slow down their heartbeats in order to withstand the really cold temperatures that they live in their surrounding waters of the Arctic. So this is a picture here of where you would find a walrus, and we divide them into two different populations. We do this by geography. So the Atlantic walruses, they inhabit the coastal areas of Northeast Canada and Greenland. And then we have our Pacific walrus, which is over the northern waters of Russia and near Alaska. And female Pacific walruses give birth when they're migrating north in the spring, and then make that trip up to eat. Okay, so a big question here. What is the difference between a seal and a sea lion? Because a lot of people mix this up. So we're going to spend a little bit of time making sure that if we're at the beach, we can identify the difference between the two. So seals have ear holes. So unlike us, you won't find an ear flap. They have front flippers that are shorter, blunt, and covered with hair. And they have claw-like nails on their digits that are very easy to see. Their hind flippers, they're short and paddle-like, and they're also covered with hair. And they move through the water using that rear flipper, and they move them back and forth like a dog would be wagging its tail to propel through the water. And they don't move very well on land. They scoot on their belly, and they kind of flop their way around. And then our sea lions, they have ear flaps. So kind of more similar to our ear. They have a little flap that you can see. Their front flippers are very long and wing-like, and they're hairless, which we're going to learn about a little more when we talk about our northern fur seals later. And they have no noticeable nails. So if you were looking at a seal, you could probably really see some claws, not so much on our sea lions. Their hind flippers are also long and webbed. And this is how, if you've been to an aquarium, our sea lions are able to do tricks. They're very intelligent. And it's those long webbed hind flippers. They move through the water by flapping those large front flippers, kind of like a diver using flippers in the water. And they can rotate these hind flippers, which gives them the ability to look like they're walking on land. So we have our seal and sea lion diagrams here just to review. You can see the picture here on our seal. We have our ear hole, and our sea lion, we have the ear flap. For the seal, we have short, hairy foreflippers. And on the sea lion, we have long, hairless foreflippers. And then lastly, for our hind flippers, our seal, they are short, angle backwards, and they cannot rotate. And they swim with those, kind of like a dog wagging its tail. And a sea lion does have rotating hind flippers that gives it the appearance of walking, and allows them to do those tricks if you've been to an aquarium. And they swim kind of like a diver with those flippers. All right, so this is some great footage from the Seal Conservancy that just shows the difference of how we would see a seal or a sea lion moving if they were hauled out on a beach. And the left there is a harbor seal. You can see it kind of running along, not moving very gracefully. And then our sea lion on the right is basically walking gracefully along the beach there, rotating those hind flippers. And you can see pretty clearly the ear flaps on our sea lion on the right there. And you can see those long flippers that are not very hairy. And on the left, you can see our ear holes on our seal. You will notice that both have whiskers and both have four flippers. So those are some characteristics of our pinnipeds. Okay, so One of the really cute seals out there that can be found all over the world are the harbor seals. Harbor seals have gray or brown fur, and they're dark and light spots. And most harbor seals look pretty different from each other. So that's a way that we can spot the difference between them at both in the wild and at aquariums. The males are larger than females. Pay attention to that because that's not the same in every species of pinniped. So the males can weigh up to 300 pounds and grow up to 6 feet long. The females are a little bit lighter and a little bit shorter. Our harbor seals eat fish and squid, so they are diving down to get their food. They can age to about 25 to 30 years old. So these are creatures that live for quite a long time. They do have some predators, sharks and orcas. If you are in New England, we know all about sharks attacking our seals for their food. And harbor seals, they do live on coastal areas, so they do live near places where humans are. So we have to be careful not to hurt their habitat, and we have to be careful when we're on recreational boats and commercial boats not to strike these seals. And they often get entangled in fishing gear because they are so close to these human habitats. Harbor seals can be found on the east, west, and north coast of North America. And they can also be found off the coast of Europe and in Northern Asian countries. So think kind of Japan and northward of there. And harbor seal pups can more than double their weight in the first month of their life. So they're born at around 20 to 30 pounds, and they can double that in 1 month. So they eat quite a bit. Harbor seals are actually able to eat, I believe it's between 4 and 6% of their body weight every day. They are definitely out there scavenging for food quite often. We have the gray seal, which is one of my favorite seals. These guys are also called horseheads, and they often cohabitate some of the same areas as our harbor seals in New England waters. And they're called horseheads because if you're looking at the picture there, they have these large curved noses. The males have longer noses than females, so that's one way that we can tell them apart. Like I said, they are found across North Atlantic coastal waters. We have a lot of them here in New England. The males can be up to 900 pounds, quite large, up to 9 feet long. And the females are a little bit smaller at 600 pounds, 7 feet long. Another way we can tell them apart, our females have silver gray fur with scattered dark spots, while the males are really dark gray with silver spots. So if you're looking at the picture there, you can try and identify the difference for yourself. Another way we can tell the difference between our harbor seals and our gray seals when they're cohabitating is gray seals have wide set nostrils that form a W, which you can see in that top picture pretty well. Let me see if I can show that to you here. So if you're looking at the nostril here, you can see that wide set W. All right. And then on our harbor seal, they have more of a V-shaped nostril. PowerPoint. All right, and so our gray seals are opportunistic eaters. So they will eat just about anything, but what we've noticed is that they do prefer sand eels or sand lance in many of the areas that they do live, and that's because they are quite abundant. Think of New England, those are also things that humpback whales are eating. Again, these seals can eat 46% of their body weight. That's a lot of food, but they don't do this when they're mating or when they're molting. And molting, again, means that they're shedding their skin outer layer of fur. Fun fact, gray seals, when they are born, the little pups, they are all white. And this is because they're out on the beach and it's going to help them stay warm because white absorbs a lot of sunlight. All right. I thought it would be fun just to kind of hear what a gray seal would sound like at the beach. And this is a video. It's about 10 seconds long. It's from our headquarters in Plymouth. These are some seals hauled out on some rocks that we have down there. And I would ask that you turn your volume up, and then you can turn it back down once the video starts, but it's a little faint. I hope you can hear it. Play that one more time, so turn up your volume. All right. I would turn your volume back down now. I'm going to show you a wonderful video that BBC Earth did of some northern elephant seals, and these are some of the largest seals on our planet. They can weigh up to 5,000 pounds. The males are significantly larger than the females that are only 1,700 pounds. And remember from a few slides ago, a Toyota Corolla weighs 2,800 pounds. So these are almost twice the size of a Toyota Corolla. These are very big creatures. I'm going to start the video. Sorry, it sounds like you couldn't hear me over the video. My apologies. I was just talking about some of the facts that are on the right of the video here. I think it's really interesting that the northern elephant seals makes the longest migration that we know of any marine mammal out there. It does migrate twice a year, which is why it goes so far. It travels about 21,000 miles, and it does one migration north or south to molt and one to breed. And they have been recorded diving to depths of 1,500 feet and being underwater for up to 2 hours. So they do have some wonderful adaptations to be able to do that, which includes slowing down their heartbeat so that they can conserve energy while they are below water. The scene there where the male was biting the other male, you can see it just on the notes here that they have a chest seal that they develop with age so that they're not getting hurt when they're doing that, because they're defending their breeding territories. And the males do lose quite a bit of their weight when they're doing this because they are on that territory for quite a while. I think it can be up to a few months, if I remember right. That could be wrong about that. And lastly, if you couldn't tell by their sheer size, one way to tell that you are looking at a northern elephant seal is by that large floppy nose that they have. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will link it to our resources page. All right, so we have really, really big seal living off near Alaska. And then we have a much smaller seal living in the Arctic, the Harp Seal, which are nice and cute and cuddly when they're little, or at least they appear that way. Harp seals are named because of the black patch on their back that looks like a harp, so they don't stay that white fluffy for their entire lives. These seals are only about 5 to 6 feet long, and you can see that down there next to the 6-foot human. And they weigh between 250 and 400 pounds when they're adults. And they spend relatively little time on land compared to other seals. They prefer to be swimming in those really the North Atlantic and Arctic Oceans. They do gather on pack ice though during their breeding and molting seasons, and they can have several thousand seals on the ice when that is happening. These seals are have been found to eat more than 65 species of fish and 70 species of invertebrates. So they are very opportunistic eaters. They'll eat anything that they can find. But what we usually find are the cods, or cods are really the most prevalent thing in their gut. So those were nice and small seals. We went from really large to really small, and now we're going to go to one of the biggest predators in Antarctica, our leopard seal. Just a little short disclaimer, this is a seal that does hunt penguins, and this video does show that. It is nature. It's not that gruesome. I just wanted to give you the heads up that that is on there. And I want to show it because they are really elegant swimmers. And the video talks a little bit about that, but they can swim quite fast and they're very agile. And I think it's worth seeing them in their habitat.
In this case, obviously in Antarctica, it's the leopard seal. To get in the water with this leopard seal and have it come racing over to me and do these big threat displays. This is a seal that's 12 feet long, over 1,000 pounds, bigger than a grizzly bear. But they're actually intelligent, nurturing, caring animals that are very complex. When you look at this prehistoric serpentine appearance of a leopard seal, they're designed for speed. They've got these long pectoral flippers that when they're on a chase of a penguin, that they can turn those and they can spin within the length of their body while doing 20 miles an hour. It's beautiful to watch them hunt. When the penguins come to sea, you see them get focused, they tuck their pecks in, and they're off like rockets. Boom, they grab the penguin. And then you watch how they do the shake using centrifugal force to turn the penguin inside out, and then they carefully select the best parts of the meat off that penguin, and then they go on to the next one. Even though they're at the top of the food chain, their main diet is krill. And when you look at bad ice years, when you have really low production of annual sea ice, you get a low production in krill. And that's what's making leopard seals, like every species in Antarctica, vulnerable.
So that's some wonderful footage from National Geographic. I just find it amazing that they can swim up to 20 miles an hour and flip their body within a body length when they're going that fast. They can open their mouths 160 degrees to eat. So think of like snakes that can do things with their jaws. And they can be up to about 12 feet long. And they don't always eat penguins. Like they had mentioned, they do eat krill and other fish that are in Antarctica as well. We don't know a lot about them when they're younger because they are pretty low. They're pretty big loners is the way I have read up about them. And they get their name because they look more like a reptile than a seal.
In this case.
So we're going to move from seals to our sea lions. If you've been to an aquarium before and you have seen a seal show, it was most likely a sea lion. They are very smart and they're extremely graceful and playful, and they're able to do the things that they're trained to do because of those hind flippers that we mentioned earlier. California sea lion males are larger than females by quite a bit. They may outweigh the females by 200-ish pounds. California sea lions are found pretty much down the whole coast, the west coast of the United States, North America. And they are opportunistic eaters like their relatives, but they feed on squid, octopus, herring, different smaller fish and sharks. And they are preyed on, like our harbor seals, by orcas and great white sharks. And California sea lion males, they do bark like a dog to communicate with other males and females. I wasn't able to find a great clip of that to share with you today, and I apologize for that. But there are some videos that are a little bit longer that you can hear that bark from on the internet. I'm not going to spend quite as much time on the sea lion because a lot of people have seen them before. They are pretty cute when they're young, and that's a pup up on the top image there. And you will, again, just notice that our sea lion has ear flaps, not ear holes, which are prevalent in those pictures. So we have our seals, and then we have our sea lions and fur seals, which again, you can see their ear flap and long flippers here in these pictures, which are in a different group of our pinnipeds. These are between 5 and 7 feet, and a little bit smaller than some of our other pinnipeds that we've looked at, about 200 to 600 pounds. The males are darker than the females, and they primarily have 2 habitats, both the open ocean and then our rocky or sandy beaches on the shore, which, like their seal cousins, use for resting, mating, and molting. So the northern fur seal can spend a lot of time in the open ocean, and because of that, they have really dense fur. And they were hunted quite exclusively for that fur. But because their fur is so dense, you'll see that their flippers do not have that fur, which is, you can see in that top picture. And that's so that when they're in the water for a long period of time, they don't overheat from swimming. And as you can see from the note there, they do spend a lot of time in the open ocean, and at one point in their lives, almost up to 2 years before they return to land. Again, they were famous for this dense fur, and they can have close to 47,000 hairs per square centimeter on their coat. And they are found in northern Pacific waters, so off the coast of Alaska and Russia. You can see that on the map there. All right, so how can you help pinnipeds at home? You can be the voice the ocean needs. At OPAK, we always say advocacy is not a scary word, it's just telling a story. And it all starts with knowing. So we need to keep learning about these wonderful creatures. There are many more species out there. Like I said, there are 33 different pinnipeds. And I don't have time to talk about all of them. I just talked about a few. But the more we know about them, the more we can tell other people about their importance and their wonderful habitats that they live in and why we need to protect them. You can find your local rehabilitation centers, and I've listed a few of those on our website for you. On the East Coast here, we have the National Marine Life Center. On the West Coast, there's the Marine Mammal Center. There's many aquariums and other centers out there as well. Those are just 2 of the larger ones. And the reason I tell you that is that you can volunteer at these places, you can donate to them. For the National Marine Life Center, you can actually adopt a seal. And by I say adopt, I don't mean you get to take the seal home, but you can help with its care while it's at the rehabilitation center. There are even opportunities to name some of these seals and sea lions. We want to make sure that we're being respectful observers of their habitats when we're out in nature. Remember to be staying 50 yards away from our pinnipeds when we're at the beach or on the water. We want to protect their habitat. So as I mentioned with our harbor seals and our gray seals a little earlier, many of these seals are in coastal habitats where there are a lot of humans, which means there are a lot of boats, there's a lot of fishing gear, and there's a lot of pollution. So one of the best ways that we can help pinnipeds is by to respect their habitats, be better recyclers, put less trash in the ocean, be smarter about our fishing habits, and be more observant when we're out in boats so that we don't hit these creatures. And one way at OPAK that we advocate for pinnipeds is through artwork. So sometimes we go out to haul outs on the national seashore on Cape Cod, which is that picture on the left there, and we sketch their habitats. We often go on seal watches at OPAK, and Then we come back and we use recycled canvas bags to paint their habitats and their anatomy. These are some examples from last summer. So that's one thing that we can do. And you can also make your own ocean art at home. As I've been saying throughout these webinars, there are quite a few art contests out there that you could submit your artwork to. There's a list of them here and on our website. I have made a few Pinniped review sheets for you. So there's a little quiz to see if you were paying attention. And then there's a compare and contrast for our 3 groups of Pinnipeds: seal, sea lion, and walrus, so that you can help contrast those and compare what makes them pinnipeds and what makes them unique. You can learn more about pinnipeds. I put a species guide up on our website so you can dive into all of the 33 species. I have linked the 2 videos that we watched, as well as the viewing guidelines and ways to report stranded and endangered seals. I'm going to take this time now to answer any questions that you may have, and we'll go from there. So I did see some questions from a little bit earlier. Just gonna look through these real quick. Both male and female walruses do have tusks. Thanks for that question earlier. So fur seals are actually sea lions. They're within the taxonomy of the sea lion because they share more characteristics with sea lions than seals. So think about those ears and those flippers. How big do walrus teeth get? Those tusks, the canine teeth, they can grow up to 3 feet long. To whoever asked about what is in that picture, can you clarify which picture you're talking about? Thanks. How can I create a website advertising to help pinnipeds? That sounds like a wonderful idea. I would just make sure that you're getting all of your facts from reliable sources, like NOAA or one of these rehabilitation centers or an aquarium. There are quite a few design your own website services out there. Again, we want to be making sure that we're giving correct information to everybody. Are Galapagos fur seals a completely different species? There are northern fur seals, and then there are other fur seals, yes. My favorite pinniped is a gray seal, and that's probably because I'm from New England and they are all over here, but I think that they're big and goofy, and they're all over the place now. Back to the what is the picture, the Q&A picture here. This is a nudibranch. It's a type of sea slug, and it is something that we found on a tow on a research cruise that I was on in 2015. Do we know how climate change will affect pinnipeds? That's a wonderful question. And like many other marine species, climate change impacts pinnipeds in a few ways. We're changing the water chemistry, and that's going to change the biology of what's living there. So that's changing our food web. When we change our food web, we're changing what everything eats, all the way from our little plankton all the way up to our seals and our sea lions and our walrus. So that's one way we're changing what they're eating. We're also changing their habitat with sea level rise. So those are some big ways that we're impacting pinnipeds. The third one I was going to mention is melting of sea ice. A lot of these Arctic and Antarctic seals and sea lions, and the walrus need sea ice to haul out, to rest, and to molt and to breed. So those are some big ways that we can impact pinnipeds. Have you been up close in the ocean with a seal? So I have, and not because I was trying to. So we want to be really respectful when we are viewing seals or sea lions or walrus in their habitat. We want to stay 50 yards away from them. But I am very fortunate to have a little sunfish, just a type of sailboat. And I actually came closest to a seal last summer when I was sailing in a place called Pleasant Bay, which is on Cape Cod. And I had a seal pop up right next to me as I was sailing along, which is pretty cool. And also kind of scary because it was a male gray seal, which can get up to about 900 pounds. So if that had come up underneath me, probably would have capsized my boat. Let's see. Don't walruses have blubber? Yes, they do. Blubber is one adaptation for our pinnipeds to stay warm, especially the ones that live in our colder regions like Antarctica and the Arctic. There's a couple good questions on here that I don't know the exact answers to, and I apologize for that, but I can look into them. And one of them is, why are seals so heavy? My guess to that is they have a lot of blubber, and fat is heavy. I don't know why they've evolved to be so large. I probably be to avoid predators. There was one other question here. Can you explain some of the reproductive success of the pinnipeds? Which group is more successful than the others? I unfortunately don't know which groups are more successful than others. As humans, we've definitely impacted the population sizes of species out there through hunting and killing of seals. Before the Marine Mammal Protection Act, you were allowed to hunt seals and sea lions and walrus. So there are still parts of the world where it is done. So that's definitely going to impact the reproductive success of pinnipeds. I'm not sure which ones are better or worse, though. My apologies for that. So I'm gonna leave it there. These were some great questions, and I appreciate everyone chiming in. If I didn't answer your question, or if there were a couple there that I'm sorry I don't know the exact answer to, I try and answer them after via email or Facebook. Do want to let you know that we have a few more webinars coming up next week. We're going to have part 2 and part 3 of this marine megafauna series. Next Tuesday at 1 p.m. we'll be talking about whales, and then next Thursday at 1 p.m. we'll be talking about the big fish of the ocean. So our swordfish, our marlin, our tunas, and their stocks and why they're important for our marine food web. I would like to thank everyone that has been contributing to help us continue to offer these virtual classroom experiences. And if you want to learn a little bit more about what OPAK does during the school year and our summer programs, you can visit our website. I would encourage you to like us on Facebook. That is the platform that we update the most and has all of the up-to-date news about our programming and our events that we do throughout the year. And I hope that you learned a little bit about pinnipeds today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.